Welcome to the DJ Storybook interview series. My name is Brian Murphy, and welcome. I wanted to, before we start this interview today, this podcast today, I want to talk a little bit on my personal note. And today we're going to talk about injuries and talk about how it has an effect on us dancers physically and how it affects us mentally. And I'd like to also get into the mental part, the immediate mental part, and then the mental part 2 years down the road, because it's interesting. But I want to preface this by saying I, as a dancer of 30 years, have never really been injured. I relate it to the Pilates I've been doing for about 25 years. I'm a firm believer in cross training. I did not believe that when I was younger. I thought if I went parallel, I was going to lose my turnout. In reality, you use your parallel, you're cross-training so that the muscles are worked all around as a ballet dancer. The other thing is core. I believe in wholeheartedly core work. We dance a lot. The last thing you want to do is get on the floor and do mat work, but it has to be part of the routine. So the reason why I'm saying all of this is because I need to find out from other dancers what it was really like to be injured. Because I have never had long-term, strains here and there, but nothing. I've never missed a show. So I don't know what that's like. I don't know the feeling of, I do know when I was injured for like a day, I go, oh my gosh, my life has ended. Okay, so so this guest today, Leah Haggard, she has been through some injuries and she's been through surgeries and she's also a nutritionist, so she understands the impact of not eating to what's going to happen to your body. So without further ado, Leah Haggard, how you doing?
Good. I'm so excited to be here again.
So happy you're here. So I want to get into, you have a YouTube posting about being injured, now what? So let's get into that first, and let's go from there.
Yeah, so in that video, I talked about all of the injuries that I've had, which I've had quite a few, and especially when I was in the teenage, early adulthood age. That's when the majority of mine happened. And looking back now, I'm able to kind of see maybe some red flags in terms of my nutrition and just how I was taking care of my body that could have led to those injuries. So I just talked about kind of my experience with them, how it affected me mentally, and the fact that I was getting surgery. So I'm now 1 month post-op from my knee surgery. It was to kind of fix some things that I had injured years ago to hopefully clear everything up. And since given what's going on right now in the world, I figured now was a good time.
So Leah, let me ask you a question before you move on, and you're going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back a little bit farther though. So here you've had the surgery, here your month here. If you were to go back about 10 years, 5 years, would you have done anything different? I want to do that first and kind of get an idea if there were some changes, or this was just a part of you as a dancer.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, there's quite a few. One of them would have been to talk to a nutrition professional to make sure that I was eating enough, because I definitely was not, especially when I was training heavily. And I think part of that is because of just dance culture and the kind of celebration almost of restraint when it comes to food, which can be very unhealthy. Also, I was praised for being my size. So the fear of my body changing was definitely played into that. And then another thing was I wasn't cross training. I didn't know I was doing, like what every dancer does is like cardio and, a little bit of Pilates, but I wasn't like, for me, weight training has been huge in terms of making sure that all of my muscles are strong and not just the ones that I use for ballet. So that was huge for me. And I wish I would have known, like mentally, what I would go through with injuries, and how important it would have been to connect with someone else who had gone through the same thing, and mentally struggling with watching your peers audition and get jobs while you're on the sidelines, not knowing, like knowing that you're not going to get a job because you haven't been able to audition, but then also struggling with, like, am I going to dance again? And just really feeling very isolated from that. So those are several things.
Well, what you're talking about, interestingly enough, is what we're going through now. So let's go into your surgery. How was the surgery, and go post-surgery?
Yeah, so this surgery was pretty minor, thankfully. So they were just removing something in my knee that wasn't supposed to be there. So they didn't have to repair anything, I guess you could say. So it really was the most simple surgery that you could have. So I'm now 1 month post-op, and I have full range of mobility again. I'm able to start doing exercises again to strengthen my legs, carefully, obviously. And I'm working with a physical therapist, my chiropractor, and a massage therapist to make sure that everything is good to go. Thankfully, they checked everything during surgery to make sure that all my bones, ligaments, tendons, cartilage was all great. That's all fine. So it was really just a minor thing, but something that needed to happen because it was affecting my dancing. So.
Well, it's good to know that it's worked out for you. It's working out for you now. So, it's interesting because when you talk to artists now, we're going through this situation, is that we start to question ourselves as artists. And is that something that you went through, or is that something that, let's talk about that a little bit, what injury does to you mentally?
Yeah. So when I was injured with my hip, that was kind of a breaking point for me. So I was 19 and 20 when this was happening, and I was out for about 9 to 10 months. I had hip surgery, and then there was a long road to recovery. And dancing was my identity. Like, I was a dancer. That's what I did. And while I think all dancers identify with that, it becomes an issue when that is your only identity and you don't know who you are outside of it. So I really had to struggle with that and find who I was outside of dance. And ultimately that helped me more when I went back to dancing, because I wasn't as anxious. Like, oh my gosh, if I fall out of this pirouette, does that mean I'm not a dancer? Like, there wasn't that anxiety anymore, because it's like, yes, I'm a dancer. This is a part of who I am, but it's just, it's a very important part, but it's still just a part of who I am. And there's so many other things that make up who I am, that I'm passionate about. And so that, I feel like, was very important for me to learn and go through, which is why I talk to dancers a lot about having something else that they're passionate about. Like, yes, dance is great. Yes, you can be all in, but then you also need to think about who you are outside of dance. And once, I'm also a firm believer, like, once you stop dancing, you're still a dancer. You're not any longer, like, I don't like when people are like, oh, she's no longer a dancer, or you can't call yourself a dancer anymore because you're not dancing professionally. No. If you danced, you're a dancer. That's how I see it.
I love that. That's it's almost like all of us that were kind of on this injury cycle this last 6 months because we couldn't dance. And then we get
Yeah.
a psychological thing, oh, I'm not in the same shape. I'm not on a stage, and I'm not creating, or I'm not this. All those things are part of our identity.
Yeah.
And when they're gone, we start to feel that, what you just said. It's very interesting. Um, I I work with younger kids, and
Mm-hmm.
how do we talk to them about injuries and talk to
Mm-hmm.
them about how do we relate to what we just talked about to the kids?
Mm-hmm. I think a huge thing is teaching them to learn the signals in their body. I think that's a good starting place. And dance is very great for body awareness. I think that's why a lot of kids are put in dance, is not only for the discipline, but also just the body awareness of being cognizant of how your body moves and how you move in space and how you interact with other people. And I think it's really great at that. And I think it can also teach things like passion and drive and all of those great things that we all get from dance. But I think it's also important to be teaching healthy body practices in terms of nutrition, recovery, rest, sleep. Um, Once they get older, into the more like cross training and taking care of themselves. And I think that's where a lot of schools have really been stepping up and having professionals come in and talk to their kids about these things, and how important it is to have someone either on staff if it's a large school, or someone who is like on a recommended sheet of who a dancer can talk to if they're struggling with something, so that they know that there's someone who can help them. I think that's huge, because I think sometimes as dancers we isolate ourselves and think that we're the only ones going through something, but in reality a lot of dancers go through a lot of the same issues. And so being open about certain struggles, and also having professional people who can help them heal, whether mentally, emotionally, physically, all of those things, is really important.
I actually think that's a good way to finish this today. Why don't you talk about your blog, your
Hmm.
YouTube channel, about if somebody's watching and they want to
Yeah.
see more about how to deal with injury and what you've been through in injury, tell everybody about who you are.
Yeah, so I am a professional freelance ballet dancer as well as a certified nutrition health coach. And then I'm also going to be going back to school to receive my master's in human nutrition. And all of that is to say that the reason why I have, especially my professional training, is so that I can help dancers. I know when I was younger, I wish that there would have been a nutrition professional that I knew of who was also a dancer and knew the difficulty of balancing all the various things in life as a dancer, and being able to translate that into having a balanced, wholesome, I guess, approach to nutrition. And so that's really what I want to do with my platform, is talk about the struggles that I've gone through, and then also help other dancers through those same things, because there's nothing more that inspires me or makes me feel like what I'm doing is worth it than when someone messaged me and says, "Hey, I really appreciate that you're talking about this. I haven't heard that before." Or, "Hey, I'm starting to change the way that I view food and eating to a more healthier mindset and body approach." And so I really appreciate that. And that just makes me so happy that dancers are, learning how to truly take care of themselves and not to look skinny, but to truly find health and strength and, I guess, true vitality in their life and in their dancing. So I am at What Fuels a Dancer for YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And then my website is lifefuelholisticwellness.com.
Well, we'll make sure we put the notes in the podcast, and then if you're watching this, there'll hopefully be some links that you can check out Leah Haggard. Thank you very much, Leah. Very much appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for watching DJ Storybook. There's a podcast out, DJ Storybook. You can check the podcast out. The Facebook page. There's a YouTube channel. So check them out. Check out Leah Haggard. She's got a lot to say. So thank you, Leah, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye now.